Western Brazil. This region is home to more species than almost any other in the world. It's a treasure trove for any biologist. This is the Pantanal, the world's largest tropical wetland. I am Lydia Möcklinghoff from Germany. Working in this spectacular water world is an adventure every day. While elsewhere, the wildlife hides in dense rainforests, it's pretty much on show here. These are perfect conditions for a behavioural biologist like me. I came here for the giant anteaters. My workplace is the Fazenda Barranco Alto, a ranch in the middle of nowhere. Lots of cattle and nature. That's characteristic for this part of the Pantanal. Welcome to my second home, which is also home to some of the most impressive and weirdest wildlife in South America. "5:30, time to start the day." When I first came to the Fazenda in 2010, everything was new and exciting. Today I'm part of the team, and I return for a few months every year. The Fazenda is a traditional cattle ranch. It's run by Pantaneros, indigenous cowboys. Around here, the horse is pretty much the best way to get around. Some Pantaneros are real artists. They craft wonderful bridles, saddles and lassos from homemade leather. By now, my preparations for the day have become second nature. When I go out into the wilderness, I need to take a lot of stuff. Obviously, there's no corner shop around. Still, as experience shows, you always forget something. The Pantanal is the world's largest inland wetland and situated right in the middle of South America on the borders of Brazil, Bolivia and Paraguay. A pristine paradise the size of Great Britain. It takes a bit of practice to open and close the gates from horseback. The fences help to separate the cattle herds and to drive them from one area to another. They are no barriers to the wild inhabitants. Hello, little Pampas dear. The density of wildlife on this ancient farmland is virtually second to none. There are animals everywhere around us, to be heard and seen. The macaws are noisy beauties. They are very special parrots. Those are hyacinth macaws in the tree above. 5 of them. Once they were as good as extinct. In the 1970s, the populations were in free fall, even though they were protected. It was prohibited to sell or hunt them, yet they were declining rapidly, and nobody understood why. Because they weren't really studied. We didn't know what the birds needed for survival or how to help them. But then they started a research project and found that macaws prefer one special tree species to nest. The Mandovi tree, like the one behind me. Its wood is very soft, so they can easily carve holes into it. Also, they only eat nuts from 2 palm species, so they're pretty specialized. And those were exactly the kind of trees that were cut down first to make room for cattle. That means the macaws were protected, but had lost their livelihoods. In the end, the research helped the conservation effort. Nesting boxes were put up, and the locals were very committed. So by now, the hyacinth macaw has greatly recovered and seems to be everywhere around. At 5 in the morning, they basically kick you out of bed. They literally scream in your windows. Even so, the macaws are one of my favorite birds. Every time a flock passes above, I need to stop and admire them. When I first came to the Fazenda, I was afraid I would never learn to navigate this maze of woods, lakes and savannas. But now I know each and every tree and lake. My first job today takes me into the grassland. There's a termite mound. The termites carry nutrients and seeds into it. And after a while it turns into this little island, a little clump of trees. The ground is actually richer in minerals than the surrounding land. That makes it more appealing for animals, and we regularly discover scratch trees that are used by anteaters and other animals too. This is a very strongly used trunk. Some of the marks are fresh. Those are super deep grooves. The torn bark here looks redder. That means they're recent. So there's definitely a giant anteater around. It's worth a try. I'll put up a camera trap. I'd like to find out whether anteaters deliberately choose a tree, or if they don't really care what they scratch on. With marks this fresh, the anteater could still be close. And I get lucky. There are some suspicious noises coming from these scrubs. Da bewegt sich was. Something moving. We can walk while it's noisy and won't hear us. Digging madly now. Jetzt gerade ist er wild am Graben. There's no question. Giant anteaters are special. Maybe not the brightest animals on Earth, but extremely lovable. And perfectly adapted to their habitat. They have banana-shaped snouts that they stick in the earth to rummage for their favorite food, ants and termites. From the snout to the tip of the bushy tail, an anteater reaches a length of almost 2 meters. This one is so occupied with its foraging that I can easily follow unnoticed. That's perfect for studying its behavior. Anteaters have strong claws on their forefeet. They mainly use them to dig for food. Still, they are also useful weapons when push comes to shove. In addition, anteaters have a strong sense of smell to pick out their prey underground. 60 centimeters of sticky tongue lap up a mixture of sand and ants, about 30,000 insects a day, which makes a meager 180 grams of food. They are totally mad about fire ants, and you actually see that it stings. They brush them off like crazy. But they love it. Fire ants really live up to their name, as anyone who has come in close contact with them will tell you.
Super. Great. Ich kenne ihn schon seit einigen Jahren.
I've known this guy for years.
Das ist immer toll.
It's always good to meet them again and learn about their home range and where they roam.
Sehen kann, wo sie ihre Streifgebiete haben, wie sie sich bewegen. Das heißt, es war jetzt eine super Sichtung.
So that was a wonderful sighting. I'll leave him alone now. See ya.
Wow. Der hat ihr
He dug mega deep.
tief gegraben. Super, super tief.
Really,
wenn
really
ich mal
deep.
die Hand reinstecke.
If I put my hand in, it goes all the way down.
Hier runter. Also das ist genau die Länge
It's
von
the whole of
quasi
his
seinem
head.
Kopf.
That's why his face was so
Darum war
dirty.
dann auch das ganze Gesicht so total voller Erde.
Those must be extremely tasty ants if he goes to such lengths.
Die Aufregung lohnt.
In the Pantanal south, there are thousands of lakes. Some of them so overgrown by water plants that they are only visible from above. This is the greatest advantage of being on horse. I can manage deeper water. But I need to watch carefully for unpleasant surprises between the plants. Caimans don't attack anything as large as my horse and me. But if one splashed away suddenly, my horse might bolt, which would be anything but ideal in the middle of the swamp. The southern screamers have long noticed me and alert the rest of the Pantanal. The capybaras don't really care. The largest rodents on Earth may have many enemies, but humans are no longer among them. Besides, there's strength in numbers. Capybaras are true herbivores, and so they like to bathe in their vegetable soup. The head of the family is easily recognizable by the gland on his nose. He keeps an eye on things. Especially the next-door neighbours and their young. The mother caiman guards her young in the first few months. They have to find their own food, though. Some lakes are devoid of plants because their water is salty. They are called salinas. Capybaras also graze on dry land. Some families dwell along the salinas. They have gotten used to the salt water. During the midday heat, they like to relax in the pool. They are not the only ones. Caimans are cousins of the alligator, but only reach a maximum length of 2 meters. They are stealth hunters, quietly creeping closer until the time is right. The capybaras keep a close eye on them and hold their distance. Finally, the boss has had enough. He's familiar with the neighbors and knows when it's time to leave. During my studies in the Pantanal, I found many answers, but also loads of new questions. So I adopted a new project besides my anteaters. I'd like to know which mammals live in the various habitats around the ranch. It's challenging. I use a computer-generated grid with intersections about 1 kilometer apart. Once a year, I set up camera traps in these locations, and some of them are awfully hard to reach. So, squeeze through here or take the path? It's a bit off course. There's no getting into the forest without a machete.
So eine Dornenbromelie.
A thorny bromeliad. Get caught in that and you can forget your pants. And we're in the thick of it.
Schön im Dornengemüse.
The paths are overgrown in no time. I have to cut a new one every year.
Ich bin ganz sicher, wir müssen uns jetzt echt so ein bisschen durchschlagen, ne?
We'll have to fight our way through.
Nicht ganz so einfach.
It's not that easy.
Das ist die Tapirstrategie.
We'll do it like the tapirs and just stomp through.
Ich brauche gerade noch den GPS-Empfang.
Waiting for the signal. There's my tree. Found it. Thanks to the GPS, I managed to find the same spot again every year.
Ja, also die sind...
So those are the pathetic leftovers.
Also der sah vorher schon nicht ganz
That
fit
tree
aus.
didn't look so well last year. I mean, it wasn't a wood material or anything, but it was okay for a camera trap, and now...
Und jetzt...
It's got to point in the same direction, so I can't just pick any other tree. Please don't tip over.
So.
Okay.
Don't
Don't breathe. No touching.
So, jetzt geht hier doch eine
Look, I didn't see that path before.
Ja, jetzt geht hier ein
Yep.
1-Abfahrt.
Perfect. I would like to set up all of my 10 camera traps today. That could be a problem though, as some of my locations are on the other side of the Rio Negro. During the rainy season, the water level rises by several meters and then slowly goes down again. I'm not sure if we can already cross.
Nee,
No,
hier kommen wir nicht
no
durch.
way. The horse always knows best. It refuses to go on.
Guten Tag, Herr Nandu.
Hello, Mr. Ria. Flirting, are we? Charming. At least I can set up a few of my camera traps, and I meet an old acquaintance.
Oh,
May I introduce? Claudia. I've known her for years. It's not easy to tell the sex of an anteater, but with her, I know. After all, I've met her with more than one baby. It's good to see her again. She's like an old friend to me. Today, the cowboys are planning to drive 500 cattle to the outer regions of the ranch. But first, the animals are sorted and get medical care. Some of the calves have navel infections and need antiseptic treatment. The mother tries to do a runner, but Tom knows his stuff. He easily lassos it. The Pantaneros work with calm concentration. They respect the animals. And that's not only because frantic and violent behavior can result in a stampede. With them, it's a code of honor. Young cattle always follow the experienced leaders. The cowboys pick those out and drive them ahead. This is no factory farming. Extremely few animals graze on huge expanses of land. They aren't fed with soy or the likes. The cattle of the Nelore breed are well adapted and live off the local grasses in the wetlands. Back at the fazenda, I look at the pictures from one of the camera traps. It's like opening a present. You never know what you might find. This time, it's a curious puma. Thanks to my cameras, I also witnessed a completely unknown behavior in my anteaters. They climb trees. But why? I assume they leave scent marks as a form of communication. Anteaters are natural loners, but they still need to rendezvous during mating season. And apparently, they also sort out hierarchies that way. The Pantanal is no place for quiet. The screeching and squawking of parakeets, macaws and other odd birds never ceases. At the end of the day, we all meet up in the gopao, the barn. Here we drink an ice-cold mate, called tarare. Wetland tells me they found a dead young cow today, probably killed by a big cat. I'm pretty tired, but curiosity gets the better of me. I really have to put up a camera there and see the beef eater for myself. Once again, I pass the many gates and get stopped by a furry guard. The Tamandua is the giant anteater's little cousin. When it feels threatened, it rears up on its hind legs and tries to look dangerous. But then, it can't resist the tasty termites. In contrast to his larger relatives, the Tamandua is a very good climber. We've almost reached the dead cow and, lo and behold, we discover fresh puma tracks in the sand. Pumas are widespread in all of the Americas, from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego, way in the south. The cats are very adaptable and extremely shy. So I put up surveillance and hide myself away in the bushes. Jackpot. A female puma turns up at the carcass for a midnight snack. And then it gets even better. I discover a little spotted cat in a tree. It's a puma cub. These are extremely rare shots. It's my best cat sighting ever. When the female has left, a second youngster creeps closer. The mother has killed the cow and opened the carcass in one place. During the day, she left her prey covered with sand, well hidden from uninvited guests. After a while, the second cub joins in. It's a bit shy at first, but then it claims the best spot. Here I am, seated in a South American shrub in the middle of the night, with two young pumas bickering right in front of me. Even after all these years, the Pantanal holds new experiences for me. Nightfall doesn't mean bedtime around here, so it's no big surprise I meet an old friend on my way home. Amadeo the anteater is so busy feeding he has no eyes for me. It has been a long and exciting night. Today, I'm off with my second favourite means of travel, the canoe. Hopefully I can install the remaining cameras on the other side of the river. The giant otters are also up and about. The whole family sets out for an early fishing trip. They eye me and my canoe with suspicion. Giant otters use a lot of different calls and sometimes even clan-specific dialects. The animals push up from the water and strain their necks to see me better. They snort a warning. I've been there before and know they may bark, but don't bite. Otters are fantastic hunters, and the Rio Negro is full of fish. They secure their breakfast in one short dive. Today, otters have become a common sight in the Pantanal again. But in the 1970s, they were nearly extinct, just like the caimans. While the reptiles were hunted for leather, the otters suffered because of their thick, velvety fur. They're not the best of friends. After all, they compete for the same prey. Relationships are strained, even among the reptiles. Successful hunters can rarely enjoy their meal alone. We do bathe in the rivers, by the way. Lakes are a no-go. The piranhas are way too aggressive. The larger the otter family, the greater their territory. With 9 animals, this is a strong clan. They built their den high up on the steep banks, where they are safe from flooding. All family members leave scent marks at the entrance. They are rather pungent and a clear message to rivaling clans. Behind the next bend lies the first stop for some of my camera traps. That would have been impossible to reach on horseback. This is one of the positions the computer came up with. Now I have to fix the camera around this huge trunk. These are the same palms I cut back last time. They stand no chance, as I return here every year. The riverbank is a favourite hangout for many animals. It's always worth keeping your eyes open. The most impressive is the king of the jungle. The jaguar has returned to the Pantanal. And even though people fear it, they are also proud to have the majestic cat living next door. Luck is on my side. Those are fresh jaguar tracks. You can tell from how the sand is still piled up. The breeze would have blown them over pretty quickly. All workers on the ranch carry radios, for safety reasons, and to tell each other about interesting sightings. I'd better get going now. After all, the jaguar could still be close. Capybaras, peccaries, and even birds are part of the jaguar's diet, so there is more than sufficient prey around. Humans are not on the menu. If you keep a respectful distance, there's nothing to fear. I can hear the capybaras barking. When they spot a jaguar, they sound out the alarm across the whole river. Most definitely, the cat sees me. But I don't see the jaguar. With its spotted fur, it's almost invisible in the speckled light of the forest. One of my favourite animals awaits on the other side of the river. This is the largest land animal in South America, the tapir. I like them, even though this one isn't on his best behaviour. And then, I can hardly believe my eyes. Right on the shore, there is a jaguar. It's a female. We call her Luciana. When I first met her, she was still a youngster. Being this close to her is breathtaking and, admittedly, pretty thrilling. Inspired, I decide to set up a camera trap in a special place. This dried-out riverbed is like a highway for animals. Maybe also for the jaguar? The beach where I saw the jaguar prints earlier is right through this tunnel. In the rainy season, it's like a river. Now that it's dry, you can spot lots of animal traces. Maybe the jaguar that walked along the beach passes here as well. So, If I set up a camera trap, I could get lucky. I might get a snap of the jaguar whose paw prints I discovered this morning. I always bring one camera extra in case I discover something really cool.
Okay, und läuft.
Viel Glück.
Back at the riverbank, Fernando is waiting for me. He bears exciting news. Jay, a jaguar researcher, wants to install a trap further up the river. Fernando asks me if I would like to come. Absolutely. As it's too far for the canoe, I join him in his boat. Fernando is a good friend. He has been living on the ranch for decades and knows the land and its animals inside out. He's also the facenda's heart and soul. For many years, scientists like the veterinarian Jay have been examining and tracking jaguars. They study the cat's behavior to learn how to protect them best. It takes a lot of experience to capture a big cat without causing harm or too much stress. This is the key to success. They anchor and conceal a lasso in the ground. The noose will tighten around the jaguar's paw. It won't harm the cat, but will be firm enough to hold it. They don't want the jaguar to hurt itself. That barbed wire has to go, so there's no risk of injury. Jay offers me to test the trap. I'm always up for something like that. Plus, I can make sure the jaguar really won't be harmed. Apart from the scare, the cat should be safe. They put down sticks so the jaguar will be forced to lift its paw and not shuffle along. It'll step directly into the noose. Now for the camouflage. They use the greenery to build a sort of funnel that leads the jaguar right into the waiting lasso. It takes about an hour. Then we're done. I cross my fingers. Jay and his team will make a hit. It's a long way back, and I still have to get my canoe. The sun has long set when I reach the fazenda. A few hours later, Jay calls over the radio. A jaguar got caught in another trap, right next to the lab. So I take off at once. This is a very large male. Jay fits him with a GPS collar. After half an hour and a few more examinations, the whole procedure is done. This cat weighs 120 kilos. Jaguars this big only exist in the Pantanal. It takes 5 men to carry the heavy weight outside. For about a year, the tracker will send its signals a few times daily. The researchers record the size of the jaguar's territories, which landscapes they prefer, and whether they cross paths with other collared jaguars. I return just in time for the churrasco, the traditional barbecue. We have meat and much to talk about. Especially the devastating fires in 2020. From February to November, they destroyed almost a third of the Pantanal. The first fires broke out when the water levels had reached their highest point. In the western Pantanal, they raged relentlessly. The rainy season was virtually non-existent. We saw a lack of water in the whole of the Pantanal, resulting in bone-dry soils and plants. In the end, the embers of a few campsites were enough to trigger a catastrophe. The Pantanal has never known a drought like this in recent history. Just a few months ago, I rode through water right here. Climatologists have long predicted that the Pantanal could lose about a third of its water. Should this be the beginning, it would spell disaster for the vulnerable wetland.
Im Prinzip ist unsere Natur ein bisschen wie der Jenga.
Basically, nature is a bit like this Jenga tower. An ecosystem is made up of diverse animal and plant species. If one of them goes extinct, like the anteater for example, the tower won't collapse at once. But when more species vanish, it becomes more unstable. It's hard to predict which block, which species, will finally collapse the tower, and in other words, our ecosystem. A healthy environment provides us with food, clear water and clean air for free, so we should take care of it. That is why the protection of species is super important, and that includes each and every single species.
Jede Art zu schützen.
But to conserve a species, we need to know as much as possible about it. I was among the first to study the giant anteater. I discovered that you can recognize individuals by looking at the fur patterns on their forelegs and shoulders. My second scientific project affirms that mammals seek shelter in the woods, especially when it's hot and dry. It sounds simple, but is an important finding. If droughts increase in the future and forests keep shrinking, the animals won't have these crucial retreats anymore. Much of the conservational progress in the Pantanal, achieved over decades, could be reduced to nothing. That would be a tragedy. On one of my last rounds, I see Claudia again, with a little surprise.
Sie hat ein Riesenbaby hinten auf dem Rücken.
She has a big baby on her back. That's unusual. This time of year the anteaters give birth, but this baby is at least 7 months old. It's nearly as big as the mother.
Aber ultra süß, das Kleine.
So cute.
Mit der kleinen Schnauze.
And the little snout.
Jetzt ist halt auch die Zeit, wo die
At
Kleinen,
that age,
also
it surely
so alt,
leaves
wie
the
das
mother's
jetzt ist,
back once in a
schneigt das
while.
mit Sicherheit auch manchmal von der Mutter ab. Aber das
But we'll hardly get to see
ist
that.
echt selten.
The little one is almost invisible. The pair have matched the stripes on their shoulders perfectly. Nobody knows when young anteaters crawl off their mothers' backs. Like so many other things about wild anteaters, it remains their secret. That makes extraordinary sightings like this all the more important. This last year, I was unbelievably lucky. Eventually, I did observe the baby climbing off Claudia's back. They spent a good bit of time apart, while the little one learned how to stick its nose in. And where. It's a precious moment. For observations like these, you need a lot of time. And that's why I'm going to return next year, to my wild second home and my fascinating anteaters. I hope they will roam this paradise in the heart of South America for a long time to come.